My name's James, and I've been with CityWorks for about 18 years now, and it's probably because I've been here this long. I've seen a lot of changes that they've asked me to talk a little bit about how technology changes over time and maybe how it's impacted CityWorks. And so I wanted to start off by reviewing an article that was written in 2011, a CityWorks magazine article specifically on development, said that while it's very difficult to conceive of the future of technology, we remain, meaning CityWorks, committed to keeping our research and development up to the current standards. And then in 2016, McKinsey Digital, another consulting company, published Modernizing IT for a Digital Era, in which they state that most companies face critical IT modernization issues relating to software, hardware, and cloud-based computing. And we've just heard a couple presentations about how cities have these needs and how they've been working to overcome them. Technology changes rapidly, and we need to be able to understand these changes and modernize our approach and our offering to make sure that we're providing the best tools for today's critical workflows. So there are two main approaches when we talk about modernization. The first one is incremental. This is talking about the pain points, the things that we need to fix right now. How fast can we get this out? And it's usually the limitation is that it's right now. We're not worried about a long-term approach. We just want to fix the issue right now. The second category is end-to-end change, and this usually mirrors technology trends. It usually analyzes the entire picture. It asks, is there a better way? Suffolk, Virginia just went through this process where they reviewed all of their reports and their database configuration to see, is it needed? Can we continue, or can we drop the issue? It requires assessing the upfront costs, the allocation of finite resources, and most importantly, it relies on the new ideas. It should not be limited by the current way we do things, but new ideas can be risky and they can be hard, but the flip side is that they can give us great rewards. So I want to go through a few examples of some clients or some businesses that are important to CityWorks and how they've modernized their tools as technology has changed. So the first thing is Esri. We are definitely side by side with Esri. In 1999, Esri introduced ArcMap 8.0, and that was their first introduction to combine the powerful Arc info tools with the user experience that was available in ArcView 3X. And then in January of 2015, Esri released the first Arcgis Pro Version One. This was their next generation software that was 64-bit. It introduced the ability to work with 3D imagery, to manage their new utility network. And then just a few days ago, in a May 11th blog post, they are prepping for the upcoming release of 3.0. And in this one, they're specifically calling out some of the breaking changes that they've had to make in order to take advantage of new technology that Microsoft is providing. Moving down the list here, Esri also allows their users to create tools and checks by providing their own SDKs to extend their platform. ArcObjects was to ArcMap as ArcGIS Enterprise SDK is to ArcGIS Pro. The new SDK is for the new technology. They also have a browser-based setup where the ArcView or ArcGIS 3X JavaScript SDK has been rewritten into the ArcGIS 4X SDK, and the actual change requires quite a bit of understanding of new understanding. And in fact, in their developer site, they say that you should consider rewriting your applications when you're migrating from 3X to 4X instead of just trying to update them. So sometimes this end-to-end change is quite literally means some rewrite of code. The next company is Microsoft. They're always continuing to innovate. In 2002, they introduced this concept called the .NET Framework. And the .NET Framework was a way to consolidate and make consumables in various developer languages on the Windows operating system. In 2019, though, they released the last version of the .NET Framework, version 4.8. And why did they say that this was their last version? Well, in 2014, they also started a new initiative that they called .NET Core. You can see here in the graphic that the blue .NET Framework and .NET Core are independent of each other. They do have a common base that they call the BCL, the Base Common Library, but the .NET Core approach is a new approach. They had, from my research, they have 3 goals with .NET Core. They want to be transparent with the way it works, so they made it open source. They want to be cross-platform, so they've designed it to run on Windows, Linux, Mac OS. They also want it to be performant. .NET 6, which was previously the .NET Core, was released in November of 2021. So they have been very aggressive in their migration to this new .NET Core language initiative. As far as being open source, .NET Core, it has been one of the top 30 most active projects in the open source ecosystem. It has accepted over 100,000 contributions from developers from over 3,700 companies outside of Microsoft. I don't know any company that would be able to actually source or pay for that amount of contribution out of their own pocket, but by making it open source, they can take advantage of the open source community, and everybody can look at their pain points and update the system to help them. Stephen Taub, a partner software engineer for .NET at Microsoft, said that there have been thousands of pull requests into .NET over the last several years to improve performance. And although many of the changes on their own have profound and very measurable impact, a fair number of the changes are what we lovingly refer to as peanut butter, meaning a thin layer of tiny performance impacting changes that individually aren't hugely meaningful, but that over time add up to a bigger impact. So I want to go through a few of these impacts that Stephen had talked about and how those little small changes build up to huge gains over time. So just as a review, .NET 4.8 is the last version of Microsoft in the framework world, and they've just released the .NET 6 in November. So in .NET 6, there's a few functions that I wanted to call out just to showcase the improvements that have been made. The first one is just getting the universal time stamp. In the .NET Framework world, you can see that it takes 52 nanoseconds to request the UTC time. And in .NET 6, that same call takes about 20 nanoseconds. This is something that CityWorks does all the time. When we're working with GIS data, we like to utilize the UTC timestamp to convert things back and forth. So this is something that we want to be aware of. In another function that we do a lot of is joining strings together. We've alphabetized them. We want to put them into a single list. We want to do string manipulation, and in the .NET Framework, the string.join function takes about 124 nanoseconds. In .NET 6, it takes 51 nanoseconds. And then the last one that I want to highlight here is that in the .NET Framework, when we're working with GUID values, we're turning them from strings into a GUID object. That takes about 250 nanoseconds in Framework 4.8. In .NET 6, it takes 33 nanoseconds. Now, measuring things in nanoseconds is pretty hard to conceptualize why that's important, or how much of a benefit that gets us. So I want to go to a benchmark that is published by techempower.com to kind of highlight Asp Net Core, which is the new ASP platform built in the .NET Core environment. And you take all of those bundles of improvements together, and you can see that in this graphic, what we're seeing here is an ASP.NET server running in .NET Framework can process about 1.4 million hello world, very simple responses per second, 1.4 million per second, but the same test running on an ASP Core machine can process over 7 million of those same responses. So CityWorks does have a much more complicated response than just a simple hello world, but the ability to process, what is that, almost 80 times more is huge. And so you can see these gains that Microsoft has put in just by small little incremental changes over the entire code set. This has also affected another one of our big partners, is Oracle. We support the Microsoft database. We also support this Oracle database, and we utilize a product from the Oracle .NET team called the Oracle Data Access Provider. This is something that Oracle allows us to have, provides for developers to connect to the Oracle database without requiring the Oracle client software installed. And so the Oracle.NET team has said that they are going to consolidate their .NET Framework development and focus more on their .NET Core development. They've said that by decreasing Oracle's investment in .NET Framework, Oracle will enhance its focus in .NET and future runtime releases. And they even plan to match their ODP.NET, that's their Oracle.NET provider, release cycle with the Microsoft.NET release cadence. Microsoft has said they're going to release a new version of .NET, a major version release every November. And so Oracle is, the .NET team at Oracle is adjusting their release cycle to be every November, every December. And you can see that in December of 2021, they've just announced their support for the .NET 6 version that Microsoft just released. So these are just a few of the technologies that CityWorks is aware of, and we watch and we want to see as they evolve. We want to evolve CityWorks. In 1996, CityWorks introduced our desktop product. Some of you may not even be aware of what desktop looked like. This is an old work order form. It utilized a direct connection using ArcGIS STE to the geodatabase. In 2006, we introduced our web-based platform with AMS, followed closely by PLL. In 2010, CityWorks became an Esri Platinum partner. This gave us additional alignment information, and it provided us with constant updates and insights into the new development of Esri with their developers. And then utilizing some published Esri feature JSON information, in 2013, CityWorks produced the first concept of EORL. If you're not familiar with EORL, it's a way that we can share CityWorks data directly into the ArcGIS web map, into the ArcGIS ecosystem. You can put it in ArcGIS Insights, dashboards. It makes it very easy to share the CityWorks data. Then in 2016, CityWorks introduced the first iteration of Respond, that interactive user app that's designed for the ever-changing landscape of tablets and mobile devices. If we go back then to that 2011 article, the CityWorks magazine said, "We remain fully committed to keeping our research and development up to the current standards." This is what CityWorks is doing. We are watching the landscape as it changes, and we are adjusting, we're evolving so that we can provide the best opportunity for you to make those critical decisions that you need to make every day. Thank you very much.